Okay, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nidaul Fadhilah and with name 5554230074 from class D. So today I want to review aggregate consumption, one journal about aggregate consumption with the title is Mathematical Modeling of Zakat Effects on Aggregate Consumption in Islamic Economics, with the writer is Lilis Lisnawati. So this is an abstract of the journal. This study aims to determine the effects of zakat on aggregate consumption in Islamic economics, to know the mathematical modeling of the effect of zakat on aggregate consumption in Islamic economics, and to know the benefits of mathematical modeling of the effect of zakat on aggregate consumption in Islamic economics. This research is conducted by making mathematical modeling of the effects of zakat on aggregate consumption by taking data at the National Amil Zakat Agency, or in Indonesia is Badan Amil Zakat Nasional in Cirebon Regency. And there is a screenshot of the journal. The data obtained are Muzaki data on educational institution as many as 30 institution and Mustahik data as many as 30 people. The stages carried out in mathematical modeling are problems and problem identification, building models, model analysis, and model testing. Based on the results of model analysis and data processing, the results show that the effect of zakat can affect aggregate consumption based on the MPC, or marginal propensity to consume value. For Muzaki is 0.46 and Mustahik is 0.76. This shows that the MPC value of Mustahik is greater than the MPC value of Muzaki, which is 0.76 is greater than 0.46, or it can be said that 0 is less than something like B, is less than something like S, is less than 1, meaning that there is an increase in aggregate consumption because the amount of change in Mustahik income on aggregate consumption is high. For Muzaki, it can stabilize their desire to consume goods and services. This is very visible in the rich group who become Muzaki. The rich Muzaki are more stable than other rich groups who do not pay zakat. This can be seen when the income of Muzaki and other rich groups with the national income equals 5x 108 with different MPCs, namely MPC Z equals 0.4 and MPC ZK equals 0.7, with the MPC value of Muzaki closer to 0 and the MPC value close to 1. Meaning that if the MPC of Muzaki is closer to 0, then the consumption of Muzaki is more stable. This shows that aggregate consumption in the Islamic economy is better than conventional economy. Let's move on to the introduction. Islamic is a perfect religion which regulates matter relating to life from the simplest to the most complicated matters, whether in the aspect of education, social culture, politics, art, and so on. Even in the economic aspect, Islam has regulated it well. In the Quran, there are two principles that govern economic affairs. First, intelligence in seeking wealth. Allah opens the way to seek wealth in ways that are in accordance with honor and religion. Second, intelligence in spending in its places where Allah commands a frugal attitude in spending wealth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Quran Surah Al-Furqan verse 67, one way to save money is by saving or investing, because in economics, future preparation can be done through savings. In Islam, one way to invest is with zakat. Zakat is an asset that must be set aside by a Muslim to be given to those entitled to receive it. Zakat is divided into two groups, namely those who pay zakat or mustahik and those who are entitled to receive zakat or muzaki. With the existence of zakat, where there is an influence or not in the increase in aggregate consumption in Islamic economics, according to Aggregate consumption is one of the key variables in macroeconomics. Macroeconomics is a discussion of the behavior of a household, firms, and markets as a whole or aggregate, where aggregate consumption consists of consumption of basic goods and consumption of luxury goods. It can be said that aggregate consumption is the use of primary, secondary, and tertiary needs and how households behave in their consumption activities. Then a mathematical modeling is made, which is a process in deriving a mathematical model of a phenomenon based on assumption used in applying mathematics to study natural, economic, social, and other phenomena. The material used in mathematical modeling is function or mapping. A mapping is a relation that pairs element small a of set member big A with element small b of set member big B that is specifically defined as every small a element of big A is paired with exactly one small b element of big B. Some also call the mapping a function. After the mathematical model is formed, the benefits of the mathematical modeling are seen. There is a result of the journal based on data processing obtained from the Cirebon Regency Basnas and model simulation. The MPC value of Muzaki MPC Z or something like B is 0.46 or 46%. And the value of Mustahik MPC or MPCT or something like S is 0.76 or 76%, so that it can be presented in the diagram. Based on the figure, it can be concluded that the MPC value of Mustahik is higher than the MPC value of Muzaki, namely 0.76 is greater than 0.46, or it can be said that 0 is less than something like B is less than something like S is less than 1, meaning that the tendency to consume for Mustahik is higher than Muzaki, so that the change in Mustahik income on aggregate consumption is higher than Muzaki. So, after knowing the MPC diagram of Muzaki and Mustahik, a general graph will also be made using equation 1 to find out how much the aggregate consumption level is with the amount of MPC. The general form of the consumption function of Muzaki and Mustahik is obtained, namely consumption 1 equals 0.46y and consumption 2 equals 0.76y, with the x-axis as income and the y-axis as consumption expenditure, so that the graph shows that MPC is the slope of consumption function graph. The greater the MPC, the greater the consumption expenditure. The amount of Mustahik consumption expenditure is higher because the gradient or tendency to consume is higher than Muzaki due to the additional income from zakat. However, the amount of consumption expenditure of Muzaki is more stable because of the zakat command, causing not all of their income to be used for consumption expenditure alone, so that the tendency to consume for Muzaki is lower than Mustahik. For Muzaki, it causes a decrease in consuming goods and services. This shows that the behavior of Muzaki is in accordance with the principles and teachings of Islam, where a Muslim should not be wasteful, cultivate wealth, and must help others for those in need. From an economic point of view, the effect of zakat causes the circulation of money from the rich to the poor, the relationship from the rich to the poor through zakat and the poor to the rich through consumption. As in Quran Surah Al-Hashara verse 7, which means whatever loots or fa'iri Allah gives His messenger from the property from the inhabitants of the cities. It is for Allah, for the messenger, the relatives, the orphans, the poor, the people on the way, so that the wealth doesn't circulate among the rich only among you. What the messenger gives you, accept, and what is forbidden to you, forsake. And fear Allah, verily Allah is very severe in punishment. When rich people produce goods and services, they will need consumers because of the additional income. For the poor, there is an increase in purchasing power for goods and services, which can be profitable for producers, rich people. This shows that the effect of zakat is in accordance with the principles, characteristic, and objective of Islamic economics. Okay, so based on table 1, the MPC value of Muzaki or MPC Z or something like B is 0.46 or 46%, and the MPC value of the rich MPC ZK or B is 0.70 or 70%. So that it can be presented in the diagram, it can be calculated that the MPC value of Muzaki in Islamic economics is lower than the rich in conventional economics, which is 0.46 is less than 0.70, or it can be say that 0 is less than B star is less than B is less than 1, meaning that the tendency to consume the group that pays zakat is lower than the group that doesn't pay zakat, so that the amount of income changes to aggregate consumption is very low. When the income of Muzaki and the rich group with national income equals 5x 108 with different MPCs, namely MPC Z equals 0.4 and MPC ZK equals 0.6, the MPC value of Muzaki is closer to 0. This shows that the MPC of Muzaki is more stable. So the effect of zakat for Muzaki can stabilize their desire to consume goods and services, because some of their wealth is used for zakat. It is not used for personal interests. So after knowing the MPC diagram of Muzaki and the rich group, a general graph will also be made using equation 1 to find out how much the aggregate consumption level is with the amount of MPC. So that the general form of the consumption function of Muzaki and the rich group is obtained, namely consumption 1 equals 0.46 Y and CZK equals 0.7 Y, with the x-axis as income and the y-axis as a consumption expenditure. So that the graph shows that the greater the MPC of the rich group, the greater the consumption expenditure. However, the amount of consumption expenditure of Muzaki is more stable due to the consumption behavior of Muzaki in accordance with Islamic economic principles, where a consumer prioritizes consumption for worship rather than worldly consumption. The successful life of a Muslim is measured by Islamic religious morals because of his concern for the poor, while the high MPC value of the group that doesn't pay zakat shows that the behavior of the rich in consuming is always aimed at satisfaction alone without paying attention to the fate of others in need. Thus, aggregate consumption in Islamic economy is better than aggregate consumption in conventional economy. So the conclusion is the effect of zakat on aggregate consumption in Islamic economics is that zakat affects the total consumption expenditure of society as a whole, as in Quran Surah Al-Hashr verse 7, which illustrates that economically zakat assistance is assumed in the form of consumptive. The consumptive aid given to mustahik will increase the mustahik's purchasing power for goods and services that they need. Thus, the effect of zakat can avoid social inequality and can foster the brotherhood of fellow Muslims. so that the relationship between the rich and the poor can be realized properly. So we at the end of the review. Thank you very much. If there are any mistake, I forgive, and see you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.